Welcome to Real Estate Radio Live, an informative and engaging hour discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your hosts, Bobbi Decker and Buddy Sophie of Sotheby's International Realty, provide education and insights important to buyers and sellers locally, nationally, and globally. Selling your home to a foreign buyer or a new recent transplant to your area? Contemplating a second home or a vacation property somewhere else? Looking to find a solid investor market area? Then this show is for you. And now, to guide you around the world of real estate, here's your hosts, Bobbi Decker and Buddy Sophie.
And welcome. And we're here to actually honor the veterans who have made such a vibrant country and keep us safe. And it's going to be Veterans Day tomorrow, Bud.
Yes, sir.
11/11.
11/11, and we're going to tell people why it's 11/11.
Absolutely. I want to salute all the current and past members of our armed forces, and in alpha order, it's Army, Air Force, Coast Guard, Marines, then the Navy. My dad was an Army man, actually never went to college, and yet when he passed away, he was a lieutenant colonel in the Army. That was quite something. He served both in the Korean conflict and World War II. And then my brother, who was in the Navy, much to the chagrin of my dad, who was in the Army.
Sometimes the kids have to do that rebellious kind of stuff,
They do. And he served in Vietnam. So if any of you want to call out anything, have anything to say, give us a shout. We are texting at 650-346-5352 or call in at 1-800-516-1220. That's 1-800-516-1220. Or you can email me, Bobbi, B-O-B-B-I, at bobbidecker.com. So there's no live Facebook streaming today because we're here in the radio studio and we just don't have that set up as yet. We will soon. And we can send you to some YouTube television programs that Buddy and I will share with you along with our guest, Max Branscomb. So before we do have Max tell you a little bit about himself, please remember, all gave some and some gave all. At one time there was a draft and all did give some, didn't they, Bud?
All, yeah.
Absolutely.
That's true.
So you're a vet. We've got Max who's a vet. So Max Branscomb, I know I've had you on TV and you've just been a wonderful source of information. You were Navy, but tell us about your career. And thank you for coming on.
Well, you're certainly welcome, Bobbi, and thanks for inviting me. I was a product of the post-Korean War era, and that's when the draft was on. And like all the other young men, I had to figure out how I was going to deal with the draft. So I joined the Navy Reserve while I was still in high school. And for 3 summers, I went to the various phases of the Navy Reserve training. And while in a junior college, the Navy aviation cadets came around and suggested that I sign up to be a Navy pilot. I thought that was beyond my reach, definitely, but I signed up and passed all the tests.
It wasn't beyond your reach.
No,
it wasn't. And I love the stories you told about the first time landing on the aircraft carrier that you thought looked like the size of a little peanut or something.
Well, it was. And the flight training was wonderful.
Wow.
We had everything. They provided airplanes. They gave us money. They gave us food. And we didn't have to pay for any of it. So I went through the flight training. And part of that was air-to-air gunnery and then landing on the carrier. And, of course, landing on the carrier is the highlight of every Navy pilot's training. And it was one of the most exciting periods of my life at that time. And after that, I went into advanced training and was eventually assigned to a maritime patrol squadron. And the mission of the squadron was long-range patrol of the oceans on all parts of the world. that too was fascinating, and it took me to Japan, Alaska, and all around the waters of the coastal U.S. After that was the Vietnam era, and I had 4 tours in Vietnam. The first was on a carrier, the USS Hornet, and I was able to get my friends, Buddy and Bobby, to go over and look at the USS Hornet. That was quite an experience we had that day. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute or two. Okay, and that the Hornet was the first carrier. I went to 2 other tours, one in country with the Maritime Patrol Squadron, and the others were with the amphibious squadrons, amphibious Navy as combat air control. And after the air control, the last tour I had was sweeping the mines out of Haiphong Harbor. That was interesting. Oh boy! And as part of the agreement, that released the prisoners of war. And so when the mines were cleared, the POWs were released, and we all saw the happy POWs on buses and coming home and waving to people. My job in Vietnam being over, I went to the Air Force War College, and lo and behold, 33 of my classmates were the ex-POWs from the Vietnam era.
That had to be so interesting, huh?
That was wonderful to get to know those guys for close to a year. And that was a major life story, is that no matter how bad things seem for you, it can always be worse.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, we don't have a clue how worse it can be.
No. And then I think that the other people that were with us on the Hornet were Steve Robinson, Stephen and Max, along with our good friend and videographer, who's extraordinary, a videographer, Rocky Robinson. We all toured the carrier, the Hornet. And I was amazed at just how confined it is. You know, I would never be a great submarine person and or an aircraft carrier person. I mean, the deck is just awesome.
Well, I think you were most unhappy in the brig. Do you remember that, Max?
I remember how.
I think being in the brig was not one of those things. But Max had some time while they were redoing the Hornet, so he knew every detail about it, and he got the major docent to let us go in places that a lot of people don't get to see. That was very exciting.
It was, and thanks, Max, because I had never, ever been on an aircraft carrier like that. I'd been on top of the one in San Diego. Yes. They have a wonderful walking. You put on your headsets and everything. That's really cool, but I'd never been down into the brig, so to speak.
Well, the brig was interesting, and they even let you into my old stateroom.
Yes, they did.
They'd tidied things up, so there was nothing laying around. But
no old clothes laying on the floor or anything. Well, you had an interesting stateroom because it was right in the bow. So you had lots of extra room, although it kind of slanted up forward.
Yes, it did, and it's a great place to be because it had very gentle motion, and the water passing by all the time while you were underway was like
good sleep
music.
Yeah,
yes.
Good sleep music. Yeah, so you really want to tune in. This was a show that we did, was a Living Longer, Living Better program, one of the series of television shows that we do, and Bobby interviewed both Stephen Robinson and Max, and there's some tidbits about the Hornet kind of laced throughout there. Max took us into a control room, and that's on the TV show, but it's a half-hour TV show, so we can't give you all the detail. Just go to YouTube and go to the famous Hornet aircraft carrier, and 2 good-looking gentlemen will pop up right at the top of the list when you do that. That'll be Max and Stephen. And I'm the other vet. So Max mentioned it. There was a time when we had this thing called the draft, and we all had to figure out what we were going to provide the service to our country. And my selection at that time was the National Guard. I was with the Yankee Division. That was in New England, of course, as you can tell by Yankee. There was a moment in that time that I said, gee, I want to be Airborne Ranger. You know, those crazy people that jump out of airplanes and do wonderful things like that. Fortunately, for somehow I came to my senses, I probably wasn't suited well for jumping out of airplanes more than maybe once. So I enjoyed what I had, and I have to tell you, and sometimes I just think we should bring back the draft. I think it takes a little bit of the boy out of the man and gives a little man to that boy. So I kind of harken back. I think there's a lot of people that could use some of that discipline and some of that understanding.
Well, you know, there are a lot of people that line up aside you with that thought. But right now, we have 1 minute in which to cut out and then listen to our sponsors here. But let me just tell you that when you come back, we'll talk about just how Veterans Day got to be Veterans Day.
Yes.
And honor our veterans who do keep us safe at home. And they certainly try.
Yes, they do.
The gals and the guys.
Yep, more gals than ever before.
Absolutely, absolutely. So do stay with us. And again, if you need to give us a call in, it's 1-800-516-1220 or text me at 650-346-5352. Looking forward to hearing from you.
For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com.
Today, Sotheby's International Realty operates in the San Francisco Peninsula and Silicon Valley. They offer exclusive Sotheby's International Realty marketing, advertising, and global referral services designed to attract well-qualified buyers to the company's property listings. They also add new technologies to the 200-year-old tradition of exceptional service, such as their Lifestyles website. Visit them at svlifestyles.com for those that are interested in some of the finer things in life. From exotic cars to yachts, fashion, finance, food, wine and spirits, there is video that fits all those lifestyles and more. svlifestyles.com. In addition, the company and its clients benefit from an association with the Sotheby's Auction House, which promotes real estate referral opportunities with auction house clientele. Visit them at todaysir.com or call 650-597-1800. 650-597-1800.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live, streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, just visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Again, your hosts for today's edition of Real Estate Radio Live, Bobbi Decker and Buddy Sopet.
And welcome back. We are honoring our vets today. I'm the product of a vet and the sister of a veteran and a niece of a veteran, and I just think that we need to give them their just dues because, like I say, they keep us safe. And we have a lot of women. We actually have a story about a woman later on in the program who was one of the first to be honored. And
in World War II. Yeah.
Absolutely playing a huge role. So how is what is it? You know, what is Veterans Day? People don't ever go on TV and ask somebody out of New Jersey because Buddy and I were blown away when they didn't even know 4th of July. Remember that?
Oh, that's
somebody
scary.
was interviewing on some beach.
Yeah.
So anyway,
well,
this is a straight scoop. World War I, known as the Great War, officially ended when the Treaty of Versailles was signed June 28, 1919, in the Palace of Versailles, outside the town of Versailles, France. Okay, but the fighting ceased 7 months earlier when a temporary cessation of these hostilities was signed between the Allied nations and Germany, and that went into effect on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. So that's why you have November 11th. And this was 1918. Okay, so November 11th, 1918 was basically supposed to be regarded as the end of the war to end all wars, and unfortunately that was not true. But Max, take it from here.
Okay. An act of Congress approved May 13th, 1938, made the 11th of November of each year a legal holiday, a day to be dedicated to the cause of world peace, and thereafter celebrated and known as Armistice Day. Armistice Day was primarily a day set aside to honor veterans of World War I, but in 1954, after World War II had required the greatest mobilization of sailors, soldiers, Marines, airmen in the nation's history. After American forces had fought aggression in Korea, the 83rd Congress, at the urging of the veteran service organizations, amended the Act of 1938 by striking out the words armistice and inserting in its place the word veterans. With approval of this legislation in June of 1954, November the 11th became the day to honor American veterans of all wars.
So
there we go. The 11th day of the 11th month in the 11th hour. Hallelujah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we wanted to share some stories of other vets and wonderful things some of the people, organizations, and companies have done for our vets. But let me start with the Tuskegee Airmen. We're going to tell you about another Living Longer, Living Better show that we had and how you can see it. But it was Lieutenant Leroy Gilead and Captain Les Williams that lived here in the Bay Area. They lived well into their 90s before time took its toll, unfortunately. They made a substantial difference, not only as officers in the military, but they created the racial reset of the military world.
They did. That was a great program.
That's a great program, and you can learn all the details about it. It was, as I mentioned, it was one of Bobby's Living Longer, Living Better programs, and you can go to at Vimeo, and I'll give you one kind of a list here if you want to quickly write it down. It's vimeo.com/31804849. That's vimeo.com/31804849. Or you can go to YouTube and search for Living Longer, Living Better, Tuskegee Airmen. That's Living Longer, Living Better, Tuskegee Airmen. So, Bobby, how about one of those individual stories that we're gonna tell people about?
Well, there are just so many of them. I know we're going to also cover vet loans a little bit later, too. But for a widow, Stacia McDonough was a widow of a New Jersey veteran. The holiday season wasn't always a bright one because her husband, who served the 21st Tactical Air Support Squadron during the Vietnam War, died in 2005. And, you know, Christmas is always sad when there's death around you. I mean, it just is, because there's all those memories and everything else. But she told herself, you know, this is a giving season. My husband gave of himself. I need to do something that's very selfless and help the vets. And the particular ones that she sought out were the ones in New Jersey, because that's where she lived. And so what she did was she launched something, and I think this is the coolest name. They kept us safe. Let's keep them warm. And it was a winter clothing drive. And it ran until like December 23rd. All the donations and gifts were given directly to the veterans that were housed at what was called Community Hope for Veterans in the Virginia campus. Of her husband, she said, I love the man more than life. Believe me, no words could express how much I did and how much I still do. And I was very, very sad. But then I said, he's not here anymore. These veterans are. And you know what? It always makes people feel better when they give. There's studies that have done, and they give you $20 to spend on yourself and $20 to spend on someone else. And the people say the $20 that you give them to spend on someone else actually makes them feel better. And a lot of those people take the $20 you give them to spend on themselves
They spread it around.
And they spread it around to the
other people
others.
too. Yeah.
They don't even bother
How cool
using
is that?
it. I know. So I think innately people are really, really good. It's just we just hear about all the jerky ones in the newspaper because it sells newspapers.
Yeah, well, whenever you see the crises, which we've unfortunately shared too many of recently, people are very active in giving their support, their money, and all the help they can think of and bring to bear on some of these horrible situations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, Max, I think you have a little story about a homeless Marine.
Yes, there is a homeless Marine who had received an honorable burial from his fellow Marines. Lance Corporal Andrew Mauney, a former infantryman in the Camp Lejeune 2nd Battalion, 2nd Marine Regiment, died in January of 2015 at the age of 53. He was from Virginia and served 3 years in the Marines before being honorably discharged in 1983. At the time of his death, he was homeless on the streets of Wilmington, and without family, no one claimed his body. But one family, the Thompsons, took him in like one of their own. When he died, the family said they did all they could to give Mounty a proper burial. They put his body was not allowed to be released to them as they weren't the next of kin. Mm-hmm. After all the paths had been exhausted, the missing in the American project to find Mounty's relatives, it was decided that he would be laid to rest by his brothers in arms. That's because once a Marine, always Marine, and for vets and active duty Marines the term unclaimed is unacceptable. He's our brother, said the retired Marine Bill Holtzclaw. We don't know him by face, we don't know him by name, we don't know him by his actions, but we know one thing, we walked in his boots and he's walked in ours. Mounty was laid to rest with full military honors in early November 2015.
That's what I really appreciate about the military. You guys really do cover each other's backs. Absolutely. So, with that said, and with an honorable burial, we're going to cut for another break. And when we come back, we will continue our tribute to veterans here on 11/11/2017.
For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com.
Bobbi Decker is a recognized veteran of the real estate industry with 30 years of assisting clients to buy and sell property. Educating the public through her television programs, radio interviews, web streaming, websites, and newspaper articles helps people gain valuable knowledge that makes them better suited to accomplish their home ownership or sales goals. Ms. Decker is a vice president at today's Sotheby's International Realty, part of the global family. With 660 offices in 47 countries, she provides extensive marketing resources and services to her clients that have a wide set of needs, from selling properties on the San Francisco Mid-Peninsula and Silicon Valley to trophy ranches and vacation properties in the Sierra Foothills. When clients have needs in other parts of America or the world, she can refer them to other Sotheby's International Realty or Sotheby's Auction House locations. Contact Bobbi at BobbiDecker.com. That's BobbiDecker.com. Or call 650-346-5352.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live, streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, just visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Again, your hosts for today's edition of Real Estate Radio Live, Bobbi Decker and Buddy Sopet.
And welcome back. Buddy and I and our guest Max Branscomb are happy to be here to honor our vets. Many of the banks are closed today, post of federal buildings, things like that, in honor of Veterans Day, which is tomorrow, a Saturday. And we just thought it would be a really cool idea to talk about them and to give them their just dues. So, Buddy, tell us about your next story.
So my next story is a retired Army veteran who was gifted with a house during a Veterans Day parade. These are the kind of Americana stories that we all like to hear. Mm-hmm. So this was in November of 2015, and this was right here in the San Francisco Bay Area during a Veterans Day parade. A retired Army specialist had a life-changing moment. Jonathan Allen got a free house with his mortgage all paid up.
That is so cool.
Doesn't that give you the goosebumps,
yes.
right? I mean, that's kind of the way it should be. We've got a lot more we could say about all this from some of the recent issues of how things were handled, but that's another issue. San Francisco-based Wells Fargo donated the house to the nonprofit group Military Warrior Support Foundation. The Allens applied for the home 3 years prior, but had no idea they were actually in line for it. It was a complete surprise. Even their friends kept it a secret. That had to be a special moment. And after they were handed the keys to the home, Allen, who was injured while serving, and his wife got to ride through the parade in the Wells Fargo horse-drawn stagecoach.
That's a great visual.
Oh, that had to be cool. That had to be so cool.
It did. And I have to tell you that we do have VA loans, and especially in the Bay Area, I see that they are not used that often, and I know it's because people go, oh my gosh, you can't get in. If you don't have all cash down, you can't get in. If you don't go way over asking, you can't get in. And that's not true. Guys, the market is tough. I will give you that. And I know people are, especially the buyers, are getting so beaten up. But there are sellers. Do you remember when I sold even 11 years ago? We had multiple offers here on
16.
16. And the parents of this couple kept saying, please don't drop them, Bobby, please don't drop them. And I said, I would never do that. We're going to find them a house. And you told me about Newark and where they were going to be opening a new Sun campus. Yeah. And so I scooted on over here.
At the time.
And the couple was expecting their first baby, a little baby boy named Parker. And the guy selling it was a vet. Yeah. And he and the husband had just come back from a tour. And he was yes, sir, no, sir. And the seller fell in love with him. It was a divorce. So anyway, would you not know that there was another situation where 2 more offers came in? Just as I had written mine for my couple. But this guy said, no, he's a vet. I want him to have my house. I raised my family in this house. I want him to raise his family in the house. And so he made it happen. And that was absolutely the coolest. And I know of that happening just 3 months ago in San Bruno, in our area. It was another vet selling his home. And he wanted
with
another.
VA loan.
A vet with a VA loan because, that's a no cash down. You can get a no cash down with that. And there are lenders that do it. So if any of you out there are not familiar with how you can get to somebody, please call me because I know a number of lenders who do the VA loans and they're more than happy to help. And if you've got all your ducks lined up in a row and you've got a good agent, they'll get it done for you. It's just the research. Max, as a matter of fact, I know that you and I have talked. You've said you've used it multiple times.
Yes, I have. Back in early younger day, we bought our first house with a VA loan, and that was really important because we move about the U.S. frequently every 2 years. While I was in the Navy, we changed duty stations, and sometimes we would get Navy housing, but most of the time we were just out on the economy. And usually, since I learned about real estate by real life, it was better to own rather than rent. So we would typically try to buy a house, and when we did, we would use the VA loan, nothing down, mostly, and then it was all usually excellent loans, and that's how we did it. And then house number 2, house number 3 came that way, and through my career. So I
took
my hat off to them every time. And I can't say enough about look into it and take advantage of it.
Yeah, and I think Bobby's comments, if you're dealing with a vet who's a seller, they're a group of men and women that know what they went through Like we said, all gave some gave all. So they'll take a little extra look and maybe just an extra look enough to make it work for that buyer with that VA loan.
Right, and they look out for their buyers. They, the whole program is set up. And might it take a little bit longer? Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah,
it just depends.
The VA goes in and thoroughly inspects the house, right?
They do. And if you're buying, one thing I wanted to say, Buddy, if you are buying into a condominium complex, make sure that your agent checks with the lender to make sure the lender checks to see if they are approved.
For VA?
Yes.
Okay.
Because the whole complex needs FHA, VA approval type of thing. Yes. So don't get your hopes up. Get your homework done. That's how you get a successful transaction. Get the homework done ahead of time. You know where you're going, because it can be a lengthy process to get an entire complex. Remember, we were approved at one time, and then it was allowed to lapse, so it wasn't as long to get it reapproved. But I'll tell you what, you had to jump through hoops. I mean, it's better if it's all in place right now.
Yeah, the devil and the success is in the details.
Absolutely.
Always is.
Always is. So now, we're going to be talking about the fact that this particular man was celebrating his 90th birthday on Veterans Day back in 2015. That's something. He enlisted in 1942 when he's just 17 years old. And he worked with the U.S. Army Air Corps, became a gunner on a B-29 bomber in World War II, and then he went on to fight in Korea and the Vietnam Wars as well. And during the 35-year career, he was shot down twice. I mean, I just can't even imagine that. The first time, the former fighter pilot was picked up by Allies and taken to safety. However, unfortunately, he wasn't so lucky the second time. He was shot down in really bad weather, and then the weather turned really sour, and then what happened was the weather actually saved him, Buddy, by shielding him from being noticed.
He was behind enemy lines when he went down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then he got rescued. So then he had a chance to visit over 80 countries. Being the airborne were two things he loved most about his military career. He said, there were some minutes I didn't love, but there were some other minutes that was totally, totally cool. So I have to say, 90th birthday on Veterans Day, that's kind of sharp. What do you remember, Max, most about your career? The highlights of it?
Well, I think a number of the kind of close scrapes that we had, but mainly they were personal things that have allowed me to get along better in life. One was how to be prepared and what that really, really means. Being on the long-range patrol business, we would, once we took off and left land, we were whatever you had with you, all you were ever going to have. There was no going back, and heaven forbid if you went down, anything that you had while you were in a life raft would have to be with you. And I've kind of thought about that as I got out of the Navy, moved to the San Francisco Bay Area, which is earthquake country, and preparing for an earthquake. To this day, I carry an earthquake bag in the back of my car that has a couple of things in it that you're going to need. Some shoes that you can wear, because it's going to be cold, and you're going to probably have to walk, and
there's going to be lots of broken glass around.
Exactly.
If it's really severe earthquake. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And again, in the Bay Area, the sun goes down, temperature goes down too. So you need a jacket, an old ski jacket or something would be great, and that will that'll pay off.
Being prepared is really critical. What else?
The other is the long-term value of friendships. You can the people that you know and work with is pay attention to them and bother to get to know them, and they will be your friends probably for life. As we separate, rejoin, separate again. So Pay attention to the people around you.
Well, that's great food for thought. And more people should live by that rule. You know, I know that you and I have friends back in New England, Buddy, and we don't see them forever and ever and ever. And when we get together, it's like we just walk down the street.
It was like yesterday.
And I don't know what makes those bonds, but boy, I'm glad we've got them.
They're so critical. Yeah.
Well, we're going to have to break for our final break. So if you would like to ask any questions of Max, call 1-800-516-1220, 516-1220, or text me at 650-346-5352, and we will get to you. See you in a moment.
For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com.
Bobbi Decker is a recognized veteran of the real estate industry with 30 years of assisting clients to buy and sell property. Educating the public through her television programs, radio interviews, web streaming, websites, and newspaper articles helps people gain valuable knowledge that makes them better suited to accomplish their homeownership or sales goals. Ms. Decker is a vice president at today's Sotheby's International Realty, part of the global family, with 660 offices in 47 countries. She provides extensive marketing resources and services to her clients that have a wide set of needs, from selling properties on the San Francisco Mid-Peninsula and Silicon Valley to trophy ranches and vacation properties in the Sierra Foothills. When clients have needs in other parts of America or the world, she can refer them to other Sotheby's International Realty or Sotheby's Auction House locations. Contact Bobbi at BobbiDecker.com. That's BobbiDecker.com. Or call 650-346-5352.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live, streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, just visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Again, your hosts for today's edition of Real Estate Radio Live, Bobbi Decker and Buddy Sophet.
And welcome back. Welcome back to our program, which is honoring the vets. Tomorrow is 11/11, and I'm telling you that some of these stories are really tug at your heartstrings. The one that I wanted to talk, because we talk about the men and the women who are in our armed forces, and this was probably one of the first women. Back in World War II, there was a Wisconsin teen, Mary Tollefson, and she wanted to enter the war and do part of it. She wanted to be part of the war effort, and her mother said, absolutely not. Totally nixed the idea. So Mary did what she could on the home front, and then she went to work for the phone company. There she signed up for new electronics course. Okay? Here she's a pretty independent young lady. She had not only attended 3 sessions, then she got hooked. I mean, it was like she knew this is where she needed to be. She joined the service. She became an electrician with the WWII. And then she became a driver and a mechanic. I just love this gal, like Rosie the Riveter. And then she learned computers and was eventually part of a team calculating trajectories. How do you like that?
Yeah, and that was so important. That was actually one of our innovations in World War II. By using computers, which we all know so much about here in Silicon Valley, figuring out the trajectories was really critical. And they had this whole process of people would go out and measure where the shells would hit, and they learned to put the calculations together by running computer simulations against it. Made an enormous difference in the effectiveness of our artillery in World War II.
I just think that's absolutely phenomenal,
so
and I love it.
She was very instrumental.
A trailblazer.
Yeah, she
love
was.
It.
Fabulous.
And Max, you loved flying, and I get that. When you and I sit down and we start talking about your days in flying and all of that, and I think it's genetically been passed on to another generation. Am I correct?
Well, yes, for sure.
Tell our listeners about that's happened.
Well, we had I had 4 boys, and being gone so much when I was on active duty, I had to find ways to bond with the kids while I was home. And we picked up the idea of auto mechanics and teaching them how to tune their automobiles and stuff, and we would do that at community colleges. Well, when I got out of the Navy, we started my children had been in an aeronautics program in high school, and they would taken the FAA examination. So we decided that we'd like maybe just to build our own airplane and learn to fly and approach it that way, because I knew the kids could work on their cars and take care of themselves.
They had the mechanical underpinning to...
Well, that's right, and could carry a project to the end. So we did. We launched into a home-built airplane in our garage in Foster City. And it took 3 years to do it. We could have done it faster if we'd had unlimited funds, but my son had to... I let the kids work for the project. They had to do jobs and to generate money. And but we built the airplane, and it was a fiberglass and foam aircraft, and of an advanced design, and it did three things. It flew fast, high, and far, and I figured that was a recipe for disaster for a inexperienced pilot. So my son with whom I had built the aircraft, I would fly with him enough to be sure that he could handle himself anywhere around the U.S. and all kinds of weather. So we took many flights, and he became quite competent. In fact, he became so competent that his mother would go fly with him, but she never did fly with me. And both of his grandmothers flew with him, and so I have wonderful family photos of the gray-haired little ladies in the back of the airplane with their headsets on.
Love it.
So that was a wonderful thing to come out of it, and it was directly coming out of being flying in the Navy.
Yeah, and he's a professional.
Yes, I'm sorry. No. Yes, it wasn't all that frivolous. Is that I get off on that one? Is that he's been a captain for American Airlines now for over 20 years. So it had real benefits.
It had total benefit.
Cool.
Well, just talking about a real quick benefit. We wanted to let you know that there are some free meals, portions of meals for the vets out there. Go to www.thebalance.com/veterans/day-free-meals. But some of the names on there are Applebee's, Olive Garden, Chili's, TGIF Fridays, Denny's, Red Robin, IHOP. So check out the details. There's some business are trying to give back to their vets. Let's make sure we get out and take advantage of them.
Right. And again, it's www.thebalance.com/veterans-day-free-meals. Thank you for joining us today. Make sure you say thank you to a vet should you happen to see one on the street. Whoever you run into, remember they really lay down their lives for us, so we can leave free and do all kinds of great things in the United States of America. Thank you very much, Max, for being here. And again, Buddy, it's always great to do programs with you.
God bless America.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You've been listening to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Tune in, log in, download our podcast. Discover more at RERadiolive.com. RERadiolive.com.